Can you become an economist without having a degree in economics? The answer is, of course, yes, you can become an economist without having a degree in economics. In fact, you can become an economist even without having a degree, period. I wrote here the names of famous economists that everybody knows who do not have a degree in economics or don't have a degree at all. But most of them have degrees, but not in economics. So many people have struggled with this, including myself. You know, you asking yourself like, okay, first let's say you've read, you came across the writings of Friedrich Hayek, Milton Friedman, or Thomas Sowell, and you got hooked. You read the work and you got hooked. You're like, oh my god, economics is fun. I want to become an economist. But you realize that okay, you went to school. It was a while ago, and you're like, oh my god, do I really want to go back to school just for a degree and take loans again and etc. Because it's time consuming. It's an investment, and so you're not sure. In fact, that was my struggle because I have 2 degrees. I have a bachelor's degree in political science and a master's degree in political management. And for a while, I was thinking about going back to school to get either a master's degree in economics or a PhD in economics. But then I realized that the economics profession is not regulated like medicine or law. So if you want to become a lawyer, you have to go to law school and take the bar exam. If you want to become a doctor, you got to go to medical school and then take your board exam and then do your residency for a couple of years. Then you're officially a medical doctor. But for economics, it is not the case. Why? Because economics is a general field of study. So economics is a general field, the same like mathematics or philosophy. Do you need a degree necessarily to become a philosopher? No, you don't. Do you need a degree necessarily to become a mathematician? You don't necessarily need one. But of course, people suggest that it is preferable to have at least a degree, specifically an advanced degree in the field, to show your expertise. In my opinion, I think using advanced degrees as a shield, it's a way to restrain access to people. Because let's say someone who doesn't have a degree in economics has done extraordinary work of economics, but because he doesn't have a degree, so people are going to say, oh, he's not an economist. That's not true. That means that none of the people that I mentioned here are economists then, because they don't have a degree in economics. So you do not need to have a degree in economics to be an economist. And the list I wrote here is people like Adam Smith, who was a trained philosopher who wrote The Wealth of Nations. Alfred Marshall, who wrote Principles of Economics, who was a trained physicist. David Ricardo, who was a politician who wrote Principle of Economics and Taxation, or Principle of Political Economy and Taxation. He was a politician. Karl Marx, who wrote Das Kapital, was a trained philosopher. John Stuart Mill, who was also a trained philosopher, wrote Principles of Political Economy. Leon Walras was a trained engineer and mathematician who wrote Elements of Pure Economics. Karl Menger, who was the founder of Austrian economics, who was, in fact, he had a degree in law. And then Friedrich von Hayek had a degree in political science and law as well. They're all trained in that. Ludwig von Mises say. So for Karl Menger, Friedrich von Hayek, and Ludwig von Mises, in fact, at the time at the University of Vienna, economics was not in itself a discipline yet. So even for people who want to study like economics, they have to study political science or another social science that is related to economics. That is why Menger, F.A. Hayek, and Ludwig von Mises had doctorates basically in law. So you will check, they say that they are doctorate in law. But Mises, for instance, he used to work for the Austrian government for a while as one of in the cabinet of the Ministry of Finance. John Maynard Keynes was one of the most famous economists, was in fact a trained mathematician. John Forbes Nash, very famous mathematician who won the Nobel Prize in 1994, was a trained mathematician. Vilfredo Pareto was a social scientist. In fact, he was a political scientist. Jan Tinbergen, the man who created econometrics, was a trained physicist. Harold Hotelling, he was a trained statistician. David Friedman, the son of Milton Friedman, is a trained physicist. Eric Maskin, who won the Nobel Prize in 2007, is a trained applied mathematician. Marilda Sotomayor, a Brazilian mathematician, so as you see, she's a mathematician. She specialized in econometrics and game theory. She's a trained mathematician. Lord Shapley, he won the Nobel Prize in 2012. He was a trained mathematician too. Elinor Ostrom, trained political scientist. She won the Nobel Prize in economics in 2009. Clive Granger, econometrician, is an economist, but he was a trained statistician. Gérard Debreu, French economist who won the Nobel Prize in 1983, was a trained mathematician. Maurice Allais, French economist too, who won the Nobel Prize in 1988, was a trained physicist. Gordon Tullock, who was an American economist, never won the Nobel Prize, unfortunately, by one of the greatest economists of all time, was a trained lawyer. So these are just, and there are many, many other people, but these were the names that came to my mind. So it's to tell you that these people you see here that I mentioned have contributed significantly to the field of economics without having a degree in economics. So what it takes to become an economist. This is the list I wrote here. In fact, the first 5 are basically a requirement. A requirement if you do not have a degree. And let me tell you this, when you become an economist without having a degree, in fact, you are considered an independent economist. Why? Because you're not affiliated with any institution, whether it's a university or whether it's a think tank or any other organization. You just train yourself to become an economist. So you're an independent economist, but of course you can become affiliated with an institution down the road, and it is generally recommended to do so. But people like me, for instance, who do not have a degree in economics, we are considered independent economists. So what does it take to become an economist? First, you need to find a subfield. You need to know if you like whether macroeconomics or microeconomics. So when we say subfield here is macro or micro. Okay? Then you have to find a niche. So a niche, like it could be, let me put here just a few examples. Labor economics, labor econ, dev econ. So dev econ means development economics, monetary econ, etc. So monetary economics and stuff like that. So you gotta take a niche that you're very interested in, and then you start reading books about that niche you're interested in to acquire the knowledge and the theoretical understanding you need before starting. So you got to read a lot, because remember, you did not take a single class of economics. Let's assume that you never took a single class of economics. You decide to become an economist on your own because you found the field very interesting and you want to pursue your career in it. You want to basically become an economist, but you never took a class. You don't have a degree in it. So you need to read a lot of books in economics. And most of the books recommended are, of course, The Wealth of Nations, Principles of Political Economy and Taxation, Principles of Economics of Alfred Marshall, The Road to Serfdom, The General Theory of Keynes, Principles of Economics of Menger. So there are many books that we are suggesting that you read to understand the basic framework of economics before moving to the technical sense. But in the 21st century, you cannot do economics without number 3 and 4. And the reason why is because in the 21st century, economics has become a very, very technical field of study. So you need to learn how to analyze economic data. That's your third endeavor. You need to learn that, because you cannot just do theory all day long, doing philosophy all day long. If you claim that you're an economist, you have to be able to do predictive analysis. You have to be able to predict, forecast future economic events. That leads us to the number 4, which means you got to learn mathematics and econometrics. Because if you were pursuing a degree in economics, you would be compelled to take mathematical economics and econometrics, and even you have to take macro and microeconomics, and both fields are heavily mathematical. So you are compelled to learn math and econometrics, so basically statistics. So you have to train yourself in these two for a while. Then you can start publishing books and working papers. So there are many platforms where you can publish your working papers, such as, let's say, research papers in economics, which is a huge database to submit your papers, your working papers, and they get published. And what you guys need to understand about working papers is that they are papers that you can always improve over time. That's why we call it working paper. There's also social science research network, which is a really good research platform to submit your research papers as well. You have, of course, academia.edu, and you have ResearchGate. So these are the 4 major research platforms where you can submit your papers, and it's available to the public, and people can read you. That's how you show your your understanding of economics and your ability to do economic analysis. It's very important. And then number 6, 7, and 8, there are more recommendations than requirements. So let me put here recommendations. So if you're able to publish with an academic journal, that's a big step, because the peer review process, as I said in one of my videos, is perhaps one of the most rigorous process ever in the intellectual world. Because once you're able to publish in an academic journal, we assume that you are a professional in your field, because your paper goes toward a review process, and it's professors, PhD people, who actually review your work. So if you don't have a degree in economics and you are able to get your papers published, you are definitely in the discipline of what you've been working on. So if you're able to publish papers in academic journals, so economics journal, you're an economist. That was the case, in fact, for Gordon Tullock. Gordon Tullock, who is one of the founder of public choice theory, was in fact a lawyer, as I said earlier, and he never took a single class of economics. In fact, the only book of economics that he claimed to have read that got him into economics was Human Action of Ludwig von Mises. And he just started training himself in economics. And Gordon Tullock was nominated several times for the Nobel Prize. Unfortunately, he never wins, but there are many reasons why he never won the prize. But he was undeniably one of the greatest economists to ever shape the field. He created the rent-seeking theory. He created the Tullock paradox. He shaped economics without having a degree in economics. He had a degree in law. So that tells you everything. But he was able to publish with great journals such as the American Economic Review, the Journal of Political Economy. He even created his own journal with James Buchanan called the Public Choice Journal. So it is highly recommended to publish with academic journals because that will definitely ascertain your credibility. I did publish with the Journal of Economics and Econometrics early this year. It was an econometrics paper, and that definitely gave me a ton of credibility because writing working papers is good because you already show that you already show to your peers and to everyone that you know what you're doing. But to get the validation, it is important to try to to submit your papers to academic journals. Let me tell you that it is not easy at all. Academic journals, as I said, are very rigorous. They reject more papers than they accept them. So if you try and they reject your paper, don't take it personally. I've got rejected a ton of times before I was able to publish one paper with an academic journal. It is tough, so be ready. Then be part of a professional organization. It is usually good because you're an independent economist, no one knows you. So you want to share your work with your peers. You want, in fact, your peers to judge your work and see where you've done well and where you can improve. So it is always good to be part of an organization so that you can make yourself known and show what you got. So for instance, you can be part of the Econometrics Society. You can be part of the American Economic Association. So these are the organizations. There's a fee to pay. There's a membership fee to pay, and you're part of it. I am part of the National Association of Business Economics. I am part of that organization, and it is important so that you get invited to events and you go there and you networking with people and you learn stuff. And you get to improve yourself as an economist in that realm. And then try to take a professional certification exam if you can. Of course, it is not a requirement, it's just a recommendation. This is if you want to truly become an economist, you want to have something, if sort of accreditation to prove, but it is not a requirement. That being said, there is an exam called the CBE, which is it's the National Association of Business Economics who offers that exam. So the CBE stands for the Certified Business Economics. So if you pass that, you're definitely an economist. I mean, at this point, but you will be basically working with firms, how they can improve their strategy to make more money and stuff like that, how they can allocate their resources. If you're more interested into, like, I don't know, health economics and stuff like that, maybe this is not for you, but this is more like for consultant. This exam is for economists who want to become consultant in the real world. That's what they do. So these, in fact, are the ways you become economists. But the requirement, find a subfield, whether it's macro or microeconomics, whatever you like, but you need to pick one of the two. Then find a niche, then learn how to analyze economic data, then learn mathematics and econometrics. And then of course publish books and working papers. How can you publish books? Books now? Very easy. I do that all the time. Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing is the new platform to release your book. You write a book of economics, let your friends know, let your family know, let your peers know, let everybody knows that you publish a book of economics, and you're good to go. And all you have to do is to keep doing it. So in fact, the secret to become an economist is a matter of habit. To become an economist, all you have to do is to publish. If you tell someone I'm an economist, and then you say, oh, which school did you go to? You say, oh no, I don't have a degree, but here are the papers that I've written, here is the work I've done. They can argue with that. They can argue with that because you've proved you have a portfolio. You have a portfolio to demonstrate your skills as an economist. So it is important to publish. If you don't have a blog, create a blog where you can post your work there and invite everyone to read it. That's how you will progressively increase your credibility, and eventually people will get familiar with it. So to me, it is better to live the role of what you aspire to become. So this is to tell you guys, you don't have to have a PhD to become an economist. People are so accustomed to the fact that to become an economist you have to be a professor of economics. No, there is no rule that says that you have to be a professor of economics in order to be an economist. It's because we're used to that, because we're used to see people who have PhDs be economists, that we feel that we have to have a PhD, otherwise we're not economists. That's not true. If you publish, right, if you publish books and working papers, you're an economist. If you publish book and working papers of economic analysis on a regular basis, you're an economist. Absolutely. There is no rules to say that you need to have a master's degree or a PhD. If you have a degree in economics, I mean, you have a competitive advantage. That's it. More power to you. I'm not saying it's bad to have a degree in economics. Not at all. It's always an advantage. But for those who don't have a degree, do not think that it is a requirement to have a degree in order to become an economist. It is not the case. I have degrees in political science. Elinor Ostrom has degrees in political science. John Maynard Keynes had a degree in mathematics. Okay, John Forbes Nash was a mathematician. David Freeman had a degree in physics. Okay, like these people don't have degrees in economics, and yet they're economists. If they did it, we can do it. They're not superhumans. They're not superhumans. They just produce work of economic analysis. That's all. They were passionate about the field. They wrote about it, and that's it. Even this man here, Adam Smith, who wrote perhaps one of the biggest books in economics, was a philosopher. So there's no rules to say that you have to have a degree in economics to be an economist. So if you aspire to be an economist, just start publishing your work. If you have done work already, start publishing your work. Start your blog, start your website, or submit to your papers to one of these research platforms that I mentioned. Do it on a regular basis and you will see. So I hope you found this video informative and insightful, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.